Grix heaved his massive frame through the tight confines of the boarding pod, muscles tensed for combat. Around him, a dozen Krogan shock troopers prepped their weapons, ready to unleash carnage. The pod rattled violently as it shot from the Krogan cruiser toward the human ship looming into view. This was Grix's first real battle. He had trained his entire life for this moment. He would finally prove himself in the glory of war. The pod crashed into the human vessel with a shriek of rending metal. As soon as the exit ramp dropped, the Krogan squad surged forth with thundering battle cries. They stormed down the narrow corridors, driving relentlessly toward the ship's vital centers. Grix's heart pounded with exhilaration. Bellowing a roar, he charged into the lead ahead of his more cautious comrades. His blood was up now. Caution was for the weak. Around a tight corner, he smashed into two human crew members, pulping them instantly with his mass and momentum. Adrenaline flooded his system at the thrill of his first kills. These soft, pink aliens would fall before Krogan might. A barrage of deafening booms echoed from up ahead, sounding like metal thunderclaps in the tight confines. Grix ignored his squad leader's shouts to take cover. More humans awaited slaughter. He stampeded onwards, round another corner, and stumbled back as a blast of shot tore through the chest of the Krogan next to him. Grix froze momentarily in shock. Where were these weapons coming from? More explosions rocked the corridor, ripping into another Krogan just as he raised his Tupari shotgun. The massive warrior crashed to the deck, his head a ruined mass of shattered plate and oozing brain matter. Grix's blood rage wavered. He still could not see where the attacks were originating from. The corridor appeared empty. Another pair of deafening blasts. Behind him, two more Krogans collapsed without a sound, their torsos shredded and leaking. Grix remained miraculously untouched, but terror now flooded his mind. At the end of the corridor, a door burst open and humans began pouring out. Their weapons were like nothing Grix had seen. Long, tubular, and obviously designed for carnage in close confines. He watched in horror as they bellowed in primal rage of their own and charged straight for him, blazing away with those devastating cannons. Around him, the bulkheads were stained violet with Krogan blood. The cloying stench of death choked the air. Grix wanted desperately to retreat, but his pride refused to yield. With a gurgling roar, he lifted his sledgehammer and pounded down the corridor, even as his squad mates fell in piecemeal butchery. Two more staggering blasts and his left leg collapsed under him, pulverized by the human guns. Grix crashed to the floor, crippled but still defiant. He swept his hammer in a broad arc, feeling it crack against a human skull. Then the human mob was upon him. His world dissolved into a haze of pain and roaring shotguns. He thrashed and smashed futilely as the unrelenting tide of destruction tore him apart. With a last whimper, Grix slid into darkness. The ecstasy of imagined conquest had turned into a nightmare. He realized now the horrific folly of challenging these human killers in close combat. Even the mighty Krogan race had met their match. Consciousness returned slowly to Grix, dragging him from the void of oblivion. He became aware first of a terrible throbbing agony, as if his entire body was one raw bruise. He tried to move, only for pain to erupt across his shattered frame. Memories flooded back in a rush, the boarding pod, the reckless charge, shotguns roaring, bodies shredded apart. The horrific realization that he had led his warriors straight into slaughter. With a groan, Grix forced his eyes open. The bright light seared into his brain, intensifying the anguish. He could make out a med bay filled with equipment both familiar and bizarre, and standing over him was one of the pink-skinned humans. Rage boiled up in Grix, momentarily blocking out the pain. He tried to rise, to attack, but his broken body betrayed him. He collapsed back with a snarl of frustration. "Hold, Krogan," said the human in halting words. "You are grievously injured, but you are safe now. Lies, Grix spat, blood flecking from his jaws. Why save the life of an enemy? The human raised his hands, indicating the occupied beds around them. Shock lanced through Grix as he realized they all contained wounded Krogan from his squad. Here, we see no enemies, the human said gently. Only lives to be saved. Grix's heart stuttered in bewilderment. By all the gods of Tuchanka, what manner of being was this? Any Krogan medics would have left enemy casualties to bleed out. But these humans treated former foes as if they were comrades. "Leave me be," he growled, desperate now for time to think. The human nodded. "As you wish. Rest now. You need to regain your strength. The doctor will return soon to speak with you." He turned and departed, leaving Grix alone with his swirling thoughts. His gaze roamed over the Krogan wounded, all seemingly receiving compassionate care. He could not comprehend it. Moments ago, they had been trying to slaughter these humans, yet now the humans were risking their own limited med supplies to heal them? Madness. But he could not deny the evidence before his eyes. He stared down at his bandaged, splinted limbs and battered body. His wounds had been expertly treated, saving him from certain death. Why? What could drive such an act? Killing made sense. It was the Krogan way. But mercy for the enemy? Inconceivable. Yet it was the only explanation. Somehow, for reasons Grix could not fathom, these humans truly meant to nurse their foes back to health. The revelation left his mind reeling. He thought back to the battle, how brazenly he had charged to his doom, how easily the human shotguns had harvested his brothers, despite all their centuries of combat experience. Never before had Grix witnessed such primal ferocity, and yet here, a gentle compassion lay beneath it. Grix sank back, exhausted. He realized how little he knew of these enigmatic humans, a species of seeming contradictions, savage in battle yet generous toward their enemies. He would need to recover his strength and learn more of them. For now, he reluctantly accepted their aid. He was in no shape to escape or fight, but when he was healed, then perhaps he might begin to unravel the mystery of these perplexing, alarming, fascinating creatures called humans. Over the next cycles, as Grix's body slowly mended under the careful ministrations of the human medics, the doctor named Noah began visiting him. At first, they only exchanged wary glances, neither quite sure what to make of the other. But gradually, halting conversations emerged. The human's grasp of the Krogan tongue was rudimentary, while Grix knew only a smattering of the human language. Yet despite the barriers, they persevered, driven by curiosity about their alien counterpart. Noah, it turned out, was not a warrior but a man devoted to knowledge and healing. He spoke eagerly of human medicine, sciences, and technologies. Grix described Krogan rites of passage, battles, and legends of old Tuchanka. Often they disagreed or misunderstood each other's ways, but a subtle camaraderie built between them, muted yet undeniable. In another life, perhaps they could have been boon companions. The thought gave Grix pause. "Why do your kind mend us?" Grix rasped one day, waving his arm stump where his left crest once was. "We are enemies. Your people could have left us to rot." Noah smiled, a gesture Grix was coming to recognize. "We have long striven to be better than our baser instincts. All life is of value, regardless of its origin." Grix pondered this. "Mercy is not our way. The strong dominate the weak." "Once that was our way too," Noah said, "but no longer. We have learned from pain and loss. Our future lies in cooperation, not conflict." Strange ideas, but Grix sensed the deep conviction behind them. He thought of the battle, the berserk fury that overtook human and Krogan alike. Did a way beyond such madness exist? "My people will not change easily," Grix rumbled. "Old hatreds run deep in us." Noah placed a hand on Grix's shoulder, gently but without fear. The past need not limit the future. Will you help us build something better, my friend? That simple word, friend, resonated deeply within Grix. He knew then that he could never see humans as mere enemies again. They were thinking, feeling people, like Krogan, flawed, yet also holding hope. I cannot predict what will come, Grix said solemnly. But you have given me much to ponder, human called Noah. I begin to see why your kind has thrived while we cling to the ashes of Tachanka. Perhaps we still have much to learn. Noah grinned. As do we all, Grix, but we'll find the way together. In the cycles after, their conversations continued. The more Grix learned of humanity, the more he came to respect their indomitable spirit, despite their fragile forms. When he was finally healed enough to depart, he knew he would carry a part of Noah's wisdom back with him. The future between their races remained uncertain. But for the first time, Grix dared imagine the day when Krogan and human might stand together as brothers. The day finally arrived when Grix and his fellow Krogan were sufficiently recovered to be discharged from the human med bay. Grix's heart sank at the thought of leaving this place and his newfound friend. But he knew it was time to return home. Noah came to see him off, his usual cheerful demeanor now tinged with sadness. For long moments they simply looked at each other, overwhelmed by unspoken thoughts. Grix broke the silence first. I can never repay all you've done for me, he rumbled. You could have left me to die after the battle. Instead, you healed more than just my wounds. Noah clasped his hand warmly. Anyone is capable of change, if given the chance. You and your people are always welcome among us. Grix nodded solemnly. I do not know what the future holds. Old prejudices will not disappear easily on either side. He gestured to his missing arm and crest. But every time I look upon these scars, I will remember your compassion. That will guide me in the dark days to come. Compassion can seem a weak and feeble thing, Noah replied. But over time, it is more powerful than any weapon or army. With it, we can yet build something our children will be proud of. Grix embraced the small human, mindful of his fragility. You have awakened something new in me. I promise to do all I can to further peace and wisdom between our peoples. Noah patted Grix's back with a smile. That is all I ask, my friend. Your path will not be easy, but you will not walk it alone, until we meet again. Grix stepped reluctantly into the shuttle with his fellow Krogans, casting one last look at Noah's kind face. He felt none of the bloodlust of battle now, only hope and determination. As the shuttle carried them back to the Krogan cruiser, Grix watched the human vessel shrink into the starry void. Already it felt like leaving a second home. He turned to his comrades, seeing the same introspection etched on their battered faces. They had all walked into the abyss and emerged forever changed. Now came the true trial. What lessons would they bring back? When we return home, I intend to petition the clan chief and shaman for peace, Grix declared. Who will join me on this path? One by one, each Krogan pounded a fist to their chest. You will not stand alone, brother, rumbled their scarred leader. We have seen the humans' might and their mercy. It is time for change. Grix nodded firmly, hope and purpose surging in his hearts. The human called Noah had awakened wisdom in him, and through Grix, many more Krogan as well. Each life touched by compassion was a light against the darkness. Their future would be fraught with obstacles, but with courage and commitment, Grix knew Krogan and human would one day stand together as true brothers. That vision sustained him for the challenging journey ahead. The cycles after Grix returned to Tachanka were the most trying of his life. As he advocated tirelessly for peace and cooperation with the humans, he faced skepticism, contempt, and outright threats from traditionalists. They have poisoned your mind, the clan chief growled. No true Krogan surrenders or cowers before an enemy. The shaman was even more scathing. You dishonor your ancestors with this pathetic groveling. Blood and victory are all Krogan need to thrive. But Grix stood firm, even as his position grew more precarious. I have seen humanity's might, he argued, but also their compassion. Together we can achieve what neither can alone. It was a lonely vigil, but he soon found allies. Krogan drawn to his vision of a greater future, one where their children could craft rather than destroy. One by one, minds opened and hearts softened. With his fellow ambassadors, Grix traveled to human colonies, advocating tirelessly for the peace. There was suspicion and hostility at first on both sides, but slowly, understanding grew. After many cycles of labor, the unthinkable finally happened. The Krogan Overclan and Human Alliance signed a historic treaty, renouncing violence and embracing partnership. On the momentous day of the signing, Grix embraced his dear friend Noah, who had worked just as hard for this day. Other Krogan and humans mingled, tentative but hopeful. They called me weak and deranged, Grix rumbled thickly. But here we stand, where so many said impossible. Noah clasped his shoulder. The future belongs to those who dare shape it. I am proud to call you brother. Grix surveyed the human Krogan crowd, their mingled joy and relief washing over him. At last, after so many bitter centuries, there was hope for something better. A new vision to sustain their children. Challenges remained. There were still those on both sides militant and unwilling to change. But standing together, Grix knew Krogan and human would weather any storm. Over time, what began as ideas grew into true kinship. With compassion and courage, they built a thriving interstellar culture, a blend of both people's strengths. Grix lived to see the wondrous day when Krogan and human children played together, free of their ancestors' hatreds. Laughter and friendship replaced suspicion and fear. When Grix finally went to his rest in the ancient Krogan way, his spirit did so in peace. For he helped bring about a future unshackled by the past where the light of hope burned bright. His name became legend, inspiration for generations who remade the galaxy through cooperation, not bloodshed. All because one human named Noah dared offer mercy instead of vengeance. Some called it impossible, but Grix proved them wrong. He showed that any wall, however high, could be toppled by the courage of dreaming.